And this webinar is being recorded for documentation purposes and also being live streamed on Facebook. So let me introduce our first speaker with the topic of estimating fisheries population rates and adequate harvest management measures. Our speaker is an expert marine scientist with more than 30 years of experience bridging the gap between scientific research and practical on-the-ground and community-based environmental management in the Philippines. He has a PhD in ecology and evolution from the State University of New York at Stony Brook and also serves as the country technical advisor for the UK Climate and Ocean Adaptation and Sustainable Transition Program or COAST program. He is also a senior planning and fisheries advisor for the US Philippines Fish Right program. Let me help me in welcoming ENP Andre Jon Uychiaoco. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank
Hindi siya
you.
makapag-share.
Let me try to share. Oops. Am I supposed to? Hindi pa maka-share screen. Tama ba? Try ko. Okay. Try to get this back up. All right. All right. Okay naman. Clear naman, ano? Yes, good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Actually, I've been enjoying this series, participating in this. No, this is very good. And thank you very much for the chance to be invited to share naman back from what I've also been benefiting from. No, actually, yeah, I'm glad that we are looking at this topic now about coasts and rivers and waterways because actually, even though I'm based in NCR, so I'm like PIF, EP, NCR. I mean, my work is actually all over the country. It's just that, there's no chapter which is all over the country. So hopefully there are other people also here in PIF, EP, NCR, and so on, others who are also working maybe in many other rural places of the country who would benefit. Actually, I'd like I'd be glad to see if there's like a show of hands of maybe among people here who are actually working in the rural areas, but actually, they're based here, their offices are based in NCR. So I'd be interested to see how many are there, no? Anyway, just to get started here, this I'm just presenting on behalf of this work, but actually there's a large number of people who are involved in developing this work that I'm about to share here. So, among this are my colleagues with the U.S. Philippines Fish Right Program, supported formerly by USAID, now by the U.S. State Department. Of course, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, the National Fisheries Research and Development Institute, and our partners from the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, ano? So, well, seafood, sorry, parang putol yung mga ibang slides. But anyway, seafood is an very important part of the Filipino diet. You can see it here, diba? It's like the second biggest component after rice, actually. But one thing to note about this food, no, seafood, is a significant portion of it is still wild caught, no, unlike things that we grow and are, more controlled environment, no. Yeah, if you'll see here, this too, the commercial fisheries and municipal fisheries. If you take those two together, maybe 45%. No, that's wild caught, and even the cultured species. Many of the cultured species, actually, the young that they used to culture, a lot of that is still collected from the wild, no. So, yeah, so you have a different frame of mind for how to manage this as opposed to like a fully agriculture controlled cultured species, no? So, well, as I wanted to note that as environmental planners, no, we're not just concerned about, okay, this you might be the MPDO or CPDC of a particular location, pero since we know that things are interconnected, we should also be concerned about the broader area on which our populations, diba, depend. So our water obviously doesn't just come from the NCR region; it comes from quite far places. The food quite from far as well, even the energy sources, and we also have to be concerned about our own effects downstream, diba, and even yeah, pollution from upstream going to us and sort of downstream effect. For example, if I were this, since we're talking about fisheries, the Metro Manila fleet actually goes all over the country and even to other countries to harvest fish. And they land here in Metro Manila. So actually, we have quite a large effect, no, beyond just uh, yeah, just our particular area, no. But that would be, like that would be the fleet, fishing fleet based in Navotas, no, for example. In Also, like for example, if you were to think, oh, where does a lot of the fish that the Metro Manila population eat comes from? Actually, a lot of it is from here. You see this pink portion, this sort of partly triangle portion to the north east of Palawan. This place, actually, they say supplies 70 to maybe 85% of the galunggong actually being landed here in Metro Manila, no? So yeah, we have effects beyond us, and and we're also dependent on areas around us, no? So one thing I wanted to note is that the wise farmer, 'di ba, from the agri, sets aside seeds for the next crop, 'di ba? However, tayo as hunters, in a sense, fishing, like I said, the wild catch fishing, a lot of it's like hunters. And hunters don't really have that necessarily have that thought process built in, no? Hunters also, they have to think that, hey, we can't like hunt out everything, otherwise, sinong manganganak, di ba, for the next next population. And in fact, that is what has happened throughout the world, no? Globally, there's studies all over that it was really humans that wiped out a lot of the big what do you call this, vertebrate animals, no? And even in freshwater, we've already had quite a large effect on the freshwater populations. Many yeah uh, you know freshwater fish and so on, endemic to our areas, have been affected, and now more and more the sea. And so here, this is a global image here that shows how many percent of the estimated fish stocks throughout the world are already overfished. You'll see this is like how many? Maybe 30% or so. It's already, and then quite a large percent, maybe around 60% is at the limits already of fishing, and only a small percent is underfished. No, so we're basically on the way also to wiping out a lot of the wild fish populations. No, uh, in the Philippines. So yeah, I wanted to say, how does that work in the Philippines? In the Philippines, how do we then stop this direction towards degradation? Well, in the Philippines, we generally have all sorts of regulations, in the fisheries code, but our controls are mainly uh, yeah, what we call input controls. There's some places you can't fish, some seasons you can't fish, minimum mesh sizes perhaps. But ultimately, we are not normally using quantified methods, no, to determine that, okay, of course we want to get fish, we want to eat them, but then we can only have so much, and so we have to coordinate among all the fishers who are harvesting that, hey, we can only get this much. But of course, that's quite difficult. It's not happening right now, no? But at the rate that we're going, if you look here you'll see on the right hand side of this slide, in the last 15 years or so, our capture fisheries or wild fisheries are going down steadily, no? We've reached the limits, and this study and summary here by by this various sources. I think it's Oceano who shared this, but it's coming from different sources, saying that here in the Philippines, no, see, we have 20% of the fish stocks which are estimated to have been collapsed already, and another 30% which is overexploited. So 50% is already in a bad state, no? And maybe around 33% is fully exploited. Konti na lang yung medyo in good shape, no? Uh, an example of this one I wanted to show, because I'm saying we're not quantifying enough and we're not following the numbers enough, no? So We know, I mean, most people know, okay, how do you manage fisheries? If you ask your average person on the street or average fisherman on the coast, no, the basic idea is, oh, we'll use marine protected areas and people have to follow the regulations. But let me point out some concerns there. No, the Philippines is actually the world leader in terms of number of MPAs being established. Like raw numbers. We have like over 1,000 marine protected areas set up all over the country. No, but the problem is the quantification again. No municipality or city probably has reached the 15% of fish sanctuary or no fishing area being recommended in the fisheries code since 1998 pa. Di ba? It's been recommended na since 1998, and how many years has it been? Over, yeah, mga 30 years, and yet our current level here in the Philippines is probably around 1%. No? And so the idea for that 15% is that if you protect around 15% of the area, you would be protecting around 15% of the population. So that's the basic sort of rule of thumb, no? And so if you're protecting, actually the scientific rule of thumb is more on the 20 to 30%, but maybe the lawmakers decide medyo might be a bit tough, no? So they put in 15%. Still not bad, no? But like I said, we're only at 1%. If you set aside this 15 to 30% of the area, then you protect the 15 to 30% of the population that will continue to reproduce, and then you can harvest them naman. I mean, we want to harvest, we want to eat the fish, no? Unfortunately, yeah, like I said, that's not happening much. And also people have the sometimes medyo not exactly on the dot appreciation of how to use this rule. For example, a lot of the fishes that, if you look at the raw percentages of the types of fish that we eat, a lot of them are etong mga small pelagic fisheries, what they're called. They're the fishes that swim more on the water column instead of near the bottom, no? So these things like galunggong and sardines, no, make up quite a lot of our Filipino diet, but they cannot be protected just by, let's say, oh, sige, we'll set aside this 15%. But what people are setting aside are 15% of coral reefs, and these fishes don't live in the coral reef. So you also have to set aside 15% of each type of habitat in order to get the benefits of that. But many people will probably tell you, well, how do we even watch that people don't go and fish in that 15% out there in the sea, wherein we don't even have fuel to patrol that and protect that and so on. So there's another method. That's one of the things we'll be sharing here, no? So yeah, but just to say that MPAs are very useful, but they are not able to do the job of keeping the fisheries totally afloat. We'll see more of how uh, we've been, given some tips on how to do that, no? So a little bit of background there for those who are not really into the fisheries side of things. No, the local government units have jurisdiction over fisheries within 15 kilometers of the coast, no, the municipal waters, and the boats that are 3 gross tons capacity or lower. So this is called the municipal fisheries, no. So that's local government units. BFAR naman, the national government, manages the fisheries which are in the beyond 15 kilometers from the coast, and they are managing the fishing boats that are greater than 3 gross tons. So this is what is called the commercial fisheries, no? Commercial fishing boats are usually licensed to, if you get a license from BFAR, you can fish anywhere in the Philippines, no? And the real story is that there's no real limit as long as you can get the licenses. There wasn't that much thought as to how many licenses could be allowed. No, there's no real number until very recently. This the subject of this. No, until in the last few years, as long as okay, give the licenses out. No, and but recently, around in 2019, there was this new fisheries administrative order that divided the country into these 12 fishery management areas here on the map. As you can see, they divided the entire country with the idea that they will start shifting the management from national management to FNA based management. It's not exactly a regional office because, as you can see, it doesn't fit the administrative regions of the Philippines. But what they did was they assigned a BFAR regional office to lead each one of this areas in cooperation with its some other regional offices which match this area. Because as you can tell, of course, the fishes don't follow the administrative regions, but this one is sort of trying to follow a bit more the ecosystems. No, so that's the idea. So it's a very good administrative order, actually, no, and that has been changing how we are going. And I think the key thing which is important there, which is relevant to this talk, is that that opened the opportunity to manage the number of licenses per area, per set, parang per subpopulation of fish, which is how it should be. Now, this also actually this the U.S. and other advanced, the more developed countries. This is how they do it. No? They divide them into areas and then they manage per area. No, so now we'll have to get a little bit into some of the technicalities. Try to bear with me to try to understand how this is done. No? So basically, in this graph here, the x-axis here denotes the population from zero, no fish, to one here is the sort of the carrying capacity of that population in this particular area of that particular species of fish. No, and if you were to move from that one, which is the maximum carrying capacity of that fish, and you start fishing that population, of course, the abundance would move you from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, no? The fish in the water, pakonti ng pakonti. And then the y-axis here is how much you're getting of the fish and bringing them onto land and eating them. You know? So that's how you would understand this graph here. No? So the x-axis is the amount of fish in the water, and the y-axis is how much fish you're able to get and eat. But as you'll see here, it says sustainable removals. No, so if you keep, let's say, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor here, but if like let's say you're at this point in the graph, then okay, the let's say the maximum population size of the fish here would be 1. It would be reduced to around 0.7. And then you would be able to sustainably get around this 589 metric tons per year. No? So each year, you get that much. The population remains constant at around 70% of the maximum of that population. So you leave some in the water to continue to reproduce, and you have a certain amount each year, no? Which is what we'd like. Now, most fisheries, the society in general would want to maximize that. So that's where it's here at the top of this curve, what's called the maximum sustainable yield. So if you keep on just fishing that amount, you would be reducing the total population in the water to around, in this case, not around 25%. This curve varies depending on the type of fish, how fast it reproduces, which particular body of water, but it's just your typical curve, no? It will be computed, per specific case, no? But basically, a lot of people would think, well, maybe we want the maximum yield to feed as many people, diba? And it's still sustainable naman. There's the fish doesn't get extinct, no? So that would be the objective, no? However, if you keep on fishing more and more from that population, you actually don't get more, because eventually you're eating into the population that's supposed to reproduce the next generation. So you'll see the curve starts dropping, diba? So that's the basic idea to understand here. We'll see more of this graph in the future slides. So I'm wanting to make sure you understand this, no? Years of fish measurement are actually needed to compute the actual graph for each population. And very thankfully, actually, may foresight rin naman ng ating government. In around the last 20 years, they started what is called the National Stock Assessment Program. And so government personnel from BFAR have been collecting fisheries data for the last 20 years, trying to compute what is happening to our fisheries. But it's only in the last several years that we're now using them to now shift them back into how do we now compute and regulate, no? But thankfully, yes, that data is available, and that's what we'll be seeing how it will be used later on, no? Yeah. So basically, if you are on this left side of the curve wherein your population has reduced, it's not so good from the standpoint of we're not maximizing the food production of that body of water and that fish population, di ba? You're able to feed less people. So ultimately, if you're on the left side of the peak, you would want to reduce the fish catch and let some of them go and reproduce the next generation so that it goes back up to maximum sustainable yield. No? So that's the main idea wanted to convey here. No? Okay, next. This is the key thing. In the Philippines, yes, because we are a, what's this, a democratic country, diba? It's not so easy to just mandate suddenly, okay, we're going to have to limit the number of licenses here. And so the other countries similar to us, like the US, Australia, they've also run into this. You know, it would take so long to be able to negotiate this. No, the scientists will explain this is what we need to do, and then because you would lose votes or something like that, it's hard to come to agreement on what should happen. So one of the techniques that they did, methods that they did, and has proven to be quite effective actually is what is called a harvest strategy. In this harvest strategy, they don't agree on the exact how many licenses. Rather, they agree to the principle that if you are here in the near the maximum sustainable yield, okay, we will keep the number of licenses that is maintained at near maximum sustainable yield. If the health of the fish population seems to be declining already, we will correspondingly decrease the number of licenses, or if you want, the number of fishing days you're allowed out to fish. If for some reason, uy, maganda yung population, I mean, we can't control all the factors, no? Parang marami ata silang kinakain, climate change, whatever, there's more things for them to eat, they increase in population, then we can allow more licenses or more days to fish, no? So that is a very, I think, interesting technique that we can learn from. In other words, what is consulted to the communities, to the political, the lawmakers and the regulators is that we will agree upon a formula that changes depending upon the health of the fish stock. Para when the health of the fish stock changes, we don't have to go back to you to consult you to change the number of licenses. You've already pre-agreed na this is our target. You see here the basic elements of the management harvest strategy. We have our objective. Our objective is to maximize the fish output, for example. No, the indicators is we will have a certain measurement. This is our indicator of the health of the fish stock. Now, if there's a monitoring program to continue to measure this, and the harvest control rules is the important part there. The harvest control rules will say if this is the level, then this is the regulation. If this is the level, then this is the regulation. And that will mean one regulation, and every time the situation changes, we don't have to go back to you to get again another sanggunian process to approve the regulation. So I think that was one of the sort of great ideas, no? And so where is that? Yeah, okay. So what will be the basis to determine whether there will be more or less restrictions per year? No, as I said, the easy way to think of it is, well, we want to maximize our catch, di ba? Our food. I mean, hindi naman sila mauubos. We said that 25%, meron pa naman sila dyan mga anak for the next generation. We maximize our food. Uh, so what is needed here is what are called reference points. No, this is the key. This is the thing that was in the Fisheries Administrative Order, the one that I said divided the country into the 12 parts. No, and here they said, okay, this is the way it will go. There is what is called the limit reference point. You don't want to go. This is the place you don't want to go. The state of the fish stock that you don't want to go. The target reference point is the place where you want to most of the time be around. So most of the time we want to be around the maximum sustainable yield, but there is a caveat actually there, and I'll explain that later. No, yeah. One actually, you would think that maybe we want our target reference point to be at the maximum sustainable yield. But because there's variability each year and there's the all sorts of measurement error, regulatory no, not always being effective, and natural forces, climate changing here and there, the technical recommendation actually is 120% of the MSY, maximum sustainable yield, and the limit reference point actually is the maximum sustainable yield. Now, just to give you, technically, this is the recommendation from the fishery scientist point of view. Now, so in our case, that would be the limit reference point would be 25% of the what is called the virgin biomass or the unfished biomass, the one on the right hand side of this graph. No, so 25% of this unfished biomass would be the limit reference point that is recommended, and 120% of that is approximately 30% of the unfished biomass is the target reference point. There are what is called trigger reference point. The trigger reference point is when you reach uh, state, then you will have to trigger a management action. No, so that's the trigger reference point. So, okay, I wanted to share. Wait, which one should we try first? Okay, maybe yeah. Let's go first with this slide. So in our example here, if you are less than 0.25%, which is less than MSY, less than maximum sustainable yield, then you would put in a rule that if we are in that status, my biomass, that's B over biomass unfished, B over B0, that's what it means. Now, the current biomass over zero on fish biomass. If it's less than 25%, then we will start reducing the number of licenses by a certain formula. If we are within between 25% to 30%, then okay, the number of licenses that we've issued, let's just keep it at that. That's a good place to be in. If the population of fish in the water is higher than 30%, we might even want to, sige, let's allow more licenses kasi so we can catch more fish. Kaya pa naman pala ng population eh, di ba? No? So this is the if-then, which is called if-then regulations, which is called the harvest control rules. The harvest control rule is part of the that harvest strategy that I explained a bit earlier. Now, in other countries, let me go back to the previous slide. In other countries, they use different mechanisms, like the one I was telling you a while ago, the input controls, the output controls, to try to keep the population within this sweet spot here, a little bit to the right of the maximum sustainable yield. They have mechanisms. Well, for us, this is where the marine protected areas come in. Remember, I was saying a while ago, if we have 15 to 30%, you see this horizontal line, red line here at the bottom. That is the 15 to 30%. That protects the population from getting zeroed out, crashing into the left, into the zero population. No? So that is what this is for. If you keep it at 15, well, actually, if you keep it at 25% of the area and there's 25% of the population there, then actually that would keep it at maximum sustainable yield because you can't fish more than that. In this example, no, like I said, the curve depends on the actual fish population. No. In the US and some other countries that can control it because they have what they do is in all the landing sites, they have controllers, enforcers, so that you cannot land the fish and get it to sell the fish without going through them. Whereas tayo, we have so many islands, we can't watch every little place where people can land the boats and get smuggle the boats into the market or something. So for the US and such highly controlled markets, they have total allowable catch. This is actually one of the best ways to manage a fishery from the biological standpoint, no? Because you can limit, okay, it says you can only catch this one, maximum sustainable yield. We're going a bit to the right of that. So this much of tons of fish. So what they have is they have a system all over the country that how much has been landed na here. Uy, malapit na tayo sa sa limit. Oh, stop na. You cannot land any more of this kind of fish. Bawal na. Kaya nila 'yon, no? Tayo, we don't have that level of coordination all across. But that's the most effective sana na way, no? So tayo, what we can do is what is called this effort controls, this slope, controlling the slope of the effort, no? Controlling the effort, which is in this diagram, is depicted through a slope. Okay, that's the proper way to say it, no? So here, yeah, that was the one kanina. This is an actual harvest control rule. Okay. Well, I explained already the harvest control rules a while ago. Let me share a bit. This is an actual working example, but this example is for the tunas, no? Skipjack tuna. The Philippines shares the tuna population that comes through it with the Pacific countries on the west. And so it cannot just make its own regulations. It uh, had decided to join the other countries to manage this shared population. No, and that's how it should be. Basically, whoever is sharing one population of fish should get together, depending upon the range of that fish, get everybody together and agree how we should manage this. No, so in this case, we are part of the Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission group. So with other countries, this is the harvest control rule that uh, is agreed upon, and the Philippines will follow this. So all of our tuna catches, yellowfin tuna, skipjack tuna, is controlled through that. And fortunately, the population is doing well. So we can still, actually, we're, sabi nga ng mga BFAR, we're actually not even meeting our yung given quotas to us, our allocation. So we can actually even catch even more. So good for us. You'll see here, this is how it works. See, if you're in between this sweet spot, then your catch or effort multiplier is 1. So no change in your effort. If you are, as you go down here, the population, the estimated population of the fish goes down here, you will have to reduce your effort here to 80%, 60%, 40%. Ultimately, it stops here at 20%. And on the other side, ganun din, you can increase. No? So this is the rule that has been agreed across the different countries sharing that same population. Here in the Philippines naman, so that one is okay, that's multi-country. Here in the Philippines, one example that I'd like to share, this like sort of sila yung among the leading, there's a few areas here in the Philippines which are trying to pilot and lead this forward, no, for the country. Unfortunately, in this case, the sardine population of between Mindanao and Visayas, the Bohol Sea or Mindanao Sea, as it's sometimes called, no, it's Fisheries Management Area 9. The Sardinella lemuru is approximately only 4% of unfished biomass. So if you can see the graph here, we're already well on this left-hand side, no? Yeah, the MSY is estimated to be 25%, and the slope needed, so the air effort needed, kunyari, if you had like 1,000 boats fishing this, let's say all the boats are equivalent. Yeah, 1,000 boats fishing this species. This is where we use the technology given shared to us by the Americans, no, the U.S. NOAA, no. They were able to help us compute these things, that if you reduce the fishing effort by 75%, you would then reach that 25% population or maximum sustainable yield. No, so but that means the 1,000 ships you would have to, if they're all equivalent and going out nearly every day, you would have to reduce them to 250 boats fishing. So, siyempre, yung mga managers, fisheries managers natin and yung mga fishers natin, paano yun? Anong trabaho namin, di ba? Mawawalan kami ng trabaho. But at least, fortunately, we now have a way to compute it, no? So, so that's the rest of the story I'll be telling here, partly, no? So, what happened is that, okay, they said maybe 75% is too sharp a cut in one go. Actually, they have a World Bank utang natin project to help us through with this, so we can provide some livelihood support to those people who will be affected and so on. But 75% is still too huge a cut. No? So they said, sige, paano ba kung 25% lang ang bawas? Kasi medyo yun lang ang kaya namin. Ang hirap naman yun. We're gonna reduce so many people. So they said, pwede bang 25% lang ang bawas? Unfortunately, we now have the technology to compute na if we, ito yung mga succeeding images dito. Let me try to walk you through them. If you reduce by 25% pala, in 5 years, in some cases, the simulation will show that the population is actually lower than when you started. But basically, the simulations here are provided by a particular modeling tool, and inputs to that modeling tool were what BFAR and NFRDI use their data to compute these inputs in order to simulate these population models. No, but let's say muna what is the benefit if we were to do the 75% reduction in this Sardinella capture in Mindanao Sea, no, which is their major fishery in that area. You decrease the fishing effort, the fish abundance would improve. Here, you'll see the population of the fish would improve. This is the key thing. I mean, if we want more fish to feed our people, if we didn't do anything and kept it business as usual, it would be going down and down and down. Whereas if we reduce the fishing effort, we would actually increase the amount of catch we have every year. So pag-isipin mo, wow, we're reducing the number of vessels out there in the water, but they're catching more per year. Diba? So dapat win-win sana yan. And of course, more catch for less effort, di mas profitable pa, mas konting fuel gagamitin mo, mas konting time ng tauhan mo ang babayaran mo, you get more catch, di ba? So theoretically, it should be a win-win. Pero siyempre, yung politically, of course, ilan bang botanteng matatamaan dito? So we have to understand, we have to provide jobs to people. So that was the concern, no? So how did they try to address this? No? Oh yeah, this one is the 50% reduction, 25% reduction. Because they would have to be digging themselves out of a bigger hole, what they settled for, even with all the political people understanding this, is the 50% reduction, which was it was a good call actually. And I really admire the politicians there, the leaders, the community there who decided, okay, we'll have to, kumbaga, bite the bullet. Let's go for a higher level of ambition here, no? So 50% reduction tinarget nila. Okay. Now, how is this now to be divided among the people, no? This one is interesting here. So they looked at which fishing gears collect this kind of fish, no, or catch this kind of fish, and they found out that 81% of the catch is taken by this called bag net, which is a sea commercial fishing gear. 10% is caught by the ring net, which is again another commercial fishing gear. So commercial means you need more than 3 gross ton boats. So these are mas may konting kaya yung mga taong may mga ganitong boats, no? Hindi sila yung talagang pinaka poorest of the poor dyan na isang kahig, isang tuka, tipong gano'n, no? So 91% of the total catch of this species was being taken by commercial fishing boats, and only around 9% was being taken by the municipal fishers. So ang maganda dito, sabi nila, well, the Philippine law says preferential use rights ang municipal fishers to fishing privileges. So instead of, sige, we have to reduce by 50%, instead of saying, sige, each gear 50% ang reduction sa inyo, sabi nila, we have to follow the preferential use rights. Sige, kayong lahat na, anyway, 9% lang naman ang nakaka-capture nyo. Sa inyo na yung 9% na yan. Ibawas na lang namin yung 50% from the 91%. So I think that was a very good call, taking into account social concerns, no? So, ngayon, yung 91% na yan, bawasan mo ng 50%, well, hindi naman out of the total pie, no? So, magiging 41% yan. So, next, paano naman natin babawasan yan? Kahit na paano, kahit na medyo slightly negosyante yung mga may-ari niyan, siguro there would be around 15 to 25 people per boat, no? Etong size ng mga boats dito na nangingisda nito. So there's more of a owner, no? And then mga tauhan na 50, okay, to 25 people. So sabi nila, sige, how do we reduce these boats? Well, they found out that 40% of these types of boats out there in the water are not properly registered and licensed. So sabi namin, nako, illegal na kagad kayo. So ideally, bawas na kagad kayo, di ba? So so that would reduce from 91% to 55%. Nako, kulang pa. Kailangan pa natin umabot ng 41% ng reduction. So first of all, moratorium na tayo on new entrants into the fishery, no? Hindi pa nangyayari lahat na ng legal procedure na to, pero ito pa lang yung pinag-uusapan nila, no? So to further reduce, we need to further reduce by 25% reduction pa. So one of the things being thought about is parang dito ba numbers coding ng mga sasakyan. O sige, since these fishing trips sometimes go out for a week at a time, o sige, once every 4 weeks, bawal kayong lumabas. No, pahinga muna kayo, bakasyon muna kayo, mag whatever. So that's one way to reduce by another further 25%. Anyway, all of these things are still being discussed even as we speak, but they agreed at least on the 50% reduction. How they're going to chop up the reduction and allocate it is still an interesting exercise for the country, no? And how do you provide, ito na yung isa, safety nets and livelihood options for those who will be affected, no? For those who will not be earning during a rotational closure, kung ganun man, yung once 1 week out of every 4, so anong kakainin nila, di ba? O kaya yung mga unlicensed boats na kailangan matanggal, well, may mga crew pa rin yun, mawawalan ng trabaho yun. Like I said, fortunately, while a lot of the small pelagic fish populations in the Philippines are overfished, there's a lot of large pelagic fish like yung yellowfin tuna, skipjack tuna na pwede pa nating i-fish harder. No? So that's good. And the other good thing about being not so efficient, we're said to be having a lot of post-harvest fish losses. Kumbaga, hindi na ice. Pag tumingin kayo sa palengke, marami dyan. Hindi naka-ice. Nakalapag lang yung isda na binibil. Dapat dyan, ang tama dyan, naka-ice yun no? Nakapatong sa ice and so on. We handle things very poorly. So, from all of that, from all of those efficiencies, sabi namin, perhaps all of this na medyo mawawalan ng konting time na mangisda, baka we can put them into the other parts of the fishery value chain. Ma-recover natin yung some of the losses from that. So it's possible para hindi naman sila mawalan ng income, but there's a lot of hard work ahead. Kasi siyempre, yung bang mangingisda, ito lang gusto ko pangingisda. Hindi, kailangan nyo na matututo, alagaan yung mga isda, pag-slice ng isda, gandahan nyo yung paglinis ng isda, mga ganun, no? So, mag-operate ng refrigerated truck, mga ganun. So, maraming ibang finally, patapos na tayo. I just wanted to share that the Philippines is now on the right path after decades nga. Sabi ng iba na dati alam na ng mga scientists yan may problema, pero we're now moving towards action. Our hope, I wanted to share, kasi dito ako na-inspire, yung mga nagturo sa amin ng mga Amerikano. Sabi nila, alam mo kami, dati ganun rin. 25 years ago, a lot of our fishes were also overfished. Talagang pabagsak na. Pero sabi niya, tingnan mo ngayon. Ngayon, 84% of our stocks are not overfished anymore. And only 16% are left over. Sabi ko, uy, kaya rin pala after 20 to 30 years. Sige, subukan rin namin. So, yun. So, that's the end. And here are some of the tools that we are using. And yeah, if you need further information, you can get in touch. So, thank you very much. Expensive to be enforcing the laws minsan against violators and things like that, the fisheries laws. And so although a lot of people might complain that there's poor enforcement and that they want stronger law enforcement, I think the approach might be more looked at. So yun yung challenge, and then what's that good practice? One of the good practices which I think we've been a bit more successful in is to identify sino ba yung hindi meet ng laws, no? Kumbaga, and to try to approach them and try to see how we can help them be more compliant, no? At the expense of either other people to level the playing field o kaya to also safeguard the resources for the future. So ma-explain yung basis ng law para magkaintindihan na para sa inyo rin naman talaga to I mean, hanap buhay niyo naman yan as fishers. Yung mga regulators naman, kahit na maubos lahat ng isda nila, may trabaho pa rin. I mean, di ba, kahit na paano, government jobs. So we have to try to reach out to understand what their issues and concerns are and try to help them meet the law and also at the same time achieve their income objectives, ganun. So mas baliktad, parang how can we help you? Parang ganun. Rather than pukpukin lang talaga ng batas, parang medyo it's been rather difficult to do it that way, I think, and not so sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, sa fisheries, dahil hindi, I mean, it's very expensive to be trying to actually count the fish in the water, no? A lot of, I mean, like huge proportion of the fisheries data used to do these things is actually based upon actual catches of the fisher. So, itong sinasabi ko dati na National Stock Assessment Program, basically, ang ginagawa nila, may mga enumerator doon sa kung saan nagla-landing ng mga fish catch yung mga mangingisda. Tapos ini-interview nila yung mga fisher. So it's really very human as to, how much are you catching. I was just hoping that they could maybe enhance it a bit more by also looking into the costs and income. Kasi minsan talaga, while you may have a lot of volume, as we know along the value chain, iba-iba yung nakakakuha ng benefits. Minsan, konting-konti na lang yung share ng primary catcher. Tapos, mataas naman yung presyo pag bibilhin na a lot of the value in between. Parang baka hindi masyadong equitable. But basically yun, a lot of the data in fisheries is actually through community parang contribution that they're willing to say, gaano karami bang huli mo? Ano bang kasi sinusukat pa. Yung mga NSAP na enumerator na yun, nangihiram ng mga huli ng mga mangingisda. Pwede bang sukatin namin yun? Sinusukat nila yun. Thanks.